I'm doing it right now. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to see if Cindy is on. Cindy is my
Here.
my assistant. And so she's going to help with some videos if you want to see them.
Excellent. That's
Hi,
great.
Josh. How are you?
Hey, I am well. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's great to see you as always.
I know.
I was looking forward to being with you in about a week in Austin, but I guess that's not happening anymore. Yeah.
I know, but you're killing it.
Just
You're
trying to
doing
keep up with
so
you.
well.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to keep up and get on your level, Gay.
Oh, yeah. I think you're way past me.
Not at all.
I hope that you guys are all listening to Josh and Aaron, because both of them are making big steps in the country with what they're doing down there. So you guys have wonderful resources right at your fingertips.
I appreciate that, Gay, and I completely agree. They're both great leaders in helping a lot of agents continue to be productive. We had a great March. March was our largest GCI month for March in the history of our company. So it was a great month.
Oh.
These guys are definitely leading it. So I'm going to continue to assist people, but I think what I'd like to do is just hand over the reins to Josh. And Josh is going to be interviewing Gay per se. Today's topic is shift tactic number 8, which was separating yourselves from the competition for staging. Although I'm not going to pigeonhole us into that only conversation. But obviously when I saw the word staging, I thought about you. And Josh, I'm going to let you have it.
Hey, great.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Well, good morning, everybody. Gay, thank you so much for joining us. We're just really excited to have you, and we always appreciate how loving and giving you are and the impact that you have on so many of us. So I guess I'll start by just asking, what are some of the things that, well, first of all, tell us just a little bit about yourself and some of the things you and your team are doing during this, during the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thanks for having me here, you guys. I know so many of you, and if I don't know you personally, I recognize a lot of you, except for the ones that have your screens off. And I think that's cheating and that you should reveal yourself, is what I think. But I'm probably not going to get you to change that. But anyhow, I love your market center. It's one of my favorite market centers, and I am privileged to get to teach in a lot of different market centers around the country. And really, truly, there is just a special spot in my heart for you guys. And I don't know why that is, except for that you are all so welcoming and loving. And I wear my socks a lot. I don't know if you guys remember the socks that I have, but I've got socks that you gave me the last time that I was there teaching, and every time, I actually love them, and every time I put them on, I think of you and I laugh. So thanks for having me here. I just really appreciate it. And so these are unusual times, and Jay was just sharing that you guys had your best March that you've ever had in the history of the company. And so I look at that from a lot of different perspectives. I mean, you could look at it from the glass half empty and say, you know, wow, we were on a roll and this could have been such an awesome year, and, you know, then this all happened. But I like to look at it with the glass half full. And I look at it in a couple of ways. One, that means that if you guys had a really good March, that means that as a company, then a lot of you, and hopefully most of you, had a really good March personally, which is such a blessing going into a time that, you know, of uncertainty, and, you know, where buyers and sellers are a little bit skittish with what's going on in the market and the world. And so it's really nice to go into that with a little bit of reserves and, you know, some money in your pocket as you're going into it. And so that was actually the case for us as well. We had a very strong March as well. And it certainly has helped us to, you know, just feel more confident, you know, for the couple of months that I think it's, you know, going to be a little bit just a little bit rocky. That being said, I put a $900,000 listing under contract last night, that sight unseen, to and this is interesting, a Marine general, a general in the Marines. I guess he's just retiring and coming here from Washington, D.C. But I think that is also, I don't want to divulge his, who he is in particular, but I want people to know that this is somebody who has a pretty good pulse on, what's happening in our country. I would think a general in the armed services would have a pretty good feel with what is happening in our country, and the fact that he feels confident to go and buy a house sight unseen in a different state, is pretty telling that there's a lot of confidence there. If he saw something that, down the road that looks like this is going to, crash and blow up and, all of that, I wouldn't think that he would be purchasing a home right now, particularly a high-priced home. So I just look at that as being super encouraging news. And we, as you guys, I don't know, are you guys considered essential in Arizona? Yes, we are not. So we were, and then our wings got clipped. So I could actually be, I could lose my real estate license and be thrown in jail for a year if I place a sign in someone's yard. I cannot take photos of a empty piece of land. I cannot go into a vacant house. We cannot show a house to anybody. We cannot have open houses. We cannot take photos. We cannot measure a property. So we are not allowed, we cannot place a lockbox on the door. So and this has been, we're about in our second week of doing that. So that makes it a lot trickier. We were doing pretty good, with doing virtual open houses, and we revamped our whole systems on how to do open houses and how to do showings that were virtual and, virtual tours and things like that. We really rapidly revamped our whole systems and got it so that we were still putting houses under contract and actually doing pretty well. And then they came in and, made us not be able to do that. That being said, even though we're in our second week of doing this, we've still sold 3 houses sight unseen, of varying price points, and where the buyers cannot even go. I'm getting ready to list this week my first one that I'm not going to be able to go in and do any staging, any measuring, any photography, and the people are like 70 years old that are, so not high tech. They're great people, but not high tech. Their house looks like, grandma and grandpa's house, which is not ideal for showing it. And so, we spent all this time trying to talk to them about staging and moving their dresser out of the one room and they're not doing any of that. So, that house may not sell right away, but as soon as we're able to get in there and do our work and work our magic on it, then it will. So I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear, Josh, but that's kind of what's happening with the Ribble Group. It's day by day, hour by hour in many cases, and some of our rules are changing literally hour by hour. Last week it was hour by hour. We were having like emergency meetings with our office all on Zoom, and my office has 600 agents in it. So there's a lot of people and a lot of questions and a bit of chaos, I would say. And we're managing it the very best that we can. And I think the biggest thing is that we're not quitting. We're not shutting down. We're not saying, let's just go on pause for a while. We're just every day saying, how can we do what we do at the highest level possible for today? And I think that we've been really good at innovating. Gay, Ribble, and technology usually are not used very favorably in the same sentence. And I'm actually teaching classes on like virtual open houses and things like that, which is crazy because that, would never be something that I would think of myself as doing, but we've learned how to do it. And you just have to, do what you need to do, right? Like whatever is required is what you do. And that's what we're doing.
I think that's wonderful. Gay, my follow-up question would be, one thing you said was, in the last couple of weeks, not being essential, we all know you're essential. But you've been able to put several homes under contract sight unseen. Can you kind of walk us through that process and tell us how you're doing it? Because I think it's really encouraging for us to hear that, hey, that actually can happen and it is happening. And I'm sure you're learning a lot through that process. So can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. So, well, we first of all, I'll share with you our two processes. The one that we did when we could have showings, but people were a little bit leery of having showings and, weren't really sure if they wanted, strangers wandering through their house and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
all the way
that's
to
where we are right now.
That's where you guys are. So, so we came up with, and Cindy, feel free to jump in here. I don't see your name anymore, or your pic. Oh, there you are. I see you. Yeah. So Cindy, it will be my screen sharer. And so we didn't have those pulled up, but maybe you can like pull up our landing page or something on one of our properties. So what we were doing initially is we were still going in and we were still staging, and staging, as you guys know, is a really big value proposition of the Ribble Group. So it is something that we like to do on every one of our properties. So we were still going in and staging, although our stagers bowed out and said that they didn't feel comfortable going into the properties anymore. That was about maybe a month ago now that they did that. So I became the lead stager and another one of the agents on our team. And so we would go in and, just wear gloves and wash our hands like crazy and, try not to be there at the, like side by side. She would kind of work in one area and I'd work in another area. And I think that we handled it. I mean, I'm kind of a germaphobe. And so I am somebody that is really cautious and careful. And I think that that we did it, well, where we weren't putting anybody at risk. We did ask the sellers to be gone while we were doing that. And so, that worked out okay. So we did that. One of the big things that we started to do, which I would say is very helpful and super instrumental, is doing the Matterport tours. Do you guys have access and availability to that? Okay, so previously I did not embrace Matterport, and the reason for that actually came from Josh Teams with KW, and he said that KW did some sort of a test on it, and houses that have Matterport tours get, I don't remember what he said, it's something like 30 or 40% fewer showings on it than houses that do have the Matterport tours. So what that tells us is that there are buyers who decide whether they're going to like the house or not based on seeing the Matterport tour. The reason then that I did not embrace it is that I want those other showings, because I do know that sometimes people, through photos or whatever may not think that they like the house, but when they go there in person and, it's like, oh, yeah, I don't like this about it, but I love this so much that I'm willing to, be okay not having this aspect to it. And so I think you lose that business. I think you lose the ones that, might not have been convinced that it was the right house for them until they walked in and, could kind of try it on and feel it. So, so as a rule, I have not used Matterport Tour. As a policy moving forward, I think I will. And part of why I think that I will is that I think even when our stay in place or shelter in place rules have been relaxed a bit, from everything that I'm hearing, life as we knew it is not really going to commence for some time, if ever. And I do think that people are going to be a little bit more cautious about going into houses. I think that sellers are going to be a little bit more cautious about having just, a free-for-all. I mean, sometimes in our open houses, we'll have 80 to 100 people in a house in a 2-hour window. I can't see most of my sellers at this point, like really loving the idea of that, until we have a vaccine or until, I just think that people are now, it's a thing where it didn't used to be a thing. I think it's going to probably be a thing that sticks for a while. And so I actually think that both buyers and sellers are going to start embracing and learning that you can see a lot about a house and you don't have to go and see, you know, a ton of houses before you buy one, you know, if everybody has all of that information out there. So, so it is something that I plan to do to continue to use. Now, one of the things with Matterport that I'm discovering and talking to some of the vendors who do that is that you can do voiceovers on them, and you can also do it where you just hit play. So if you guys have maneuvered the Matterport, sometimes like you'll get stuck in a corner or something, you know, like you're walking through the house and then you're like, I don't know how to get out of this corner, but you know, I'm stuck. And it just takes a little bit of skill on it. And remember, Gay Ribble and technology do not go hand in hand. So, you know, so I would get stuck in a room or something. And so it might not be like super ideal. Well, you can just hit play. And if you hit play and have the voiceover, you can have someone saying, now to the left, we see this, and here's, you know, what's on the right. And if you look straight ahead, there's the views. And it will just walk you through the house so that you don't have to maneuver it, you know, using your keypad to do that. So that's just a little thing that, you know, that I've learned, that they're improving the technology so that it's a little more user friendly for all people, not just for technologically savvy people. So we would do the, you know, we would stage, we would get the photos done, we'd do the Matterport tour, and then I started doing video, like video open houses where I was just walking through. So Matterport is better because you really get to see, you know, in a, you know, a nicer way, the house, but me walking through, I could actually open the pantry door and say, here's what's in the pantry, and here's, you know, here's the view. As we go outside, you can see what the view is, and walk around the outside of the house or go into the garage, just some places that maybe with Matterport you wouldn't be able to do or get. And so we did that. So on all of our listings, we had still photos, the Matterport, and then a walkthrough of the house with me kind of talking about what it was that they were seeing, and giving also like a description of, you know, this room is this size. We give the room dimensions and say, so you could fit a king size bed in here. Because one of the things that I've discovered, even for you guys, is you watch me here, and you all are muted, but feel free to unmute yourself, because you know me, I like conversation. So how big do you think this room is that I'm sitting in? Can you tell how deep it is? Not really, can you?
No.
That's the thing that I've discovered about video, is that you, depth perception, right? That's why we like Matterport, because it's the 3D, but that depth perception is very difficult to see. And so when people aren't there to see, you really have to be verbal about, this would be, you know, there's room in here for a king size bed with 2 nightstands and a dresser, and, you know, kind of walk through the room and help describe that to people. And we found that that started to help a lot. Then we went to doing virtual open houses, and the virtual open houses, our very first time that we did it, I wouldn't say that we were very successful at it. And then I spent a weekend watching virtual open houses of top teams around the country to see what they were doing. And that, you know, that was right at the very beginning of this. And I discovered that most of them were not doing a very good job of it, kind of like us. I mean, it's new, right? So we're all kind of learning. But we discovered that by watching the failures, whether it was our failure or someone else's failure, what it really helped us is to be able to learn how to do it more appropriately. So I will say, are you able to do open houses at all?
No physical open houses right now.
Okay. Okay, so you're doing virtual open houses then. Are you guys actually doing them? Give me a thumbs up if you've done one. Okay, so so what I would recommend with a virtual open house is, first of all, start at the sidewalk so that you can show the whole exterior of the house. That's one of the big mistakes that everybody makes. They kind of start at the front door, right? But when you're walking, I mean, like curb appeal and seeing what the house looks like on the outside, even though they have a still shot photo, is really helpful, right? It's really helpful to pan the street. to turn around so that they can see what the house across the street looks like or what is across the street, right? If you're just starting in the doorway, that really isn't going to help you with those things. If there's any kind of view or something like that, make sure that you're talking about it and showing them the view, okay? The next step then, once you go inside the house, is going to be to really be interactive. One of the things that we found is that it helps to ask people if they have questions. We found on average of our tours that we were doing, we were getting somewhere between 11 and 25 people that would be live on time, you know, at the time that we were live. And how we were doing it is much, I think, how you guys do this. Like we were sending them into Zoom, and we were doing ads on Facebook ads about, you know, this is going to be the virtual open house on this property will be Saturday at 2 o'clock. To join us, go either to our Facebook Live at the Ribble Group's Facebook page, or you can jump onto this link on Zoom to get in. So regardless of how they did it, they would go then into Zoom, and then we would do a Facebook Live. So with the Facebook Live, that was really a lot better than it was just Zoom alone. Our first week that we did it, it was only Zoom, and we didn't have nearly as many people. And it was also hard to record it. So then we started doing with the Facebook Live, and we would find that we would have about, you know, somewhere between 8 and 20 people online at that time. But the crazy part was all the people that saw it afterwards. And Cindy, on some of them, it was like 300 people that
300 to 400 people on a couple of them
within a 24-hour time frame.
Yeah.
Like it was a very short time frame that, you know, we were getting like a lot of people, a lot of lookers on that. But even for the 20 people that you've got, you know, live then, you know, I would say, like, we want this to be interactive. We'd like for you to ask questions. If you're curious about, you know, want me to open up that closet door, I'm happy to do it. And those are things like, at first we were starting with all the doors open, and that it just doesn't look attractive to see everybody's mess in their closet, you know. But I would still open the closet and say, you know, here's the closet, and describe it. So that's the biggest thing when you're doing it. You have to still be selling the property, right? It's not just showing the property. And that's the biggest difference between the two. So like on one of them, I walked into it, and actually, Cindy, oh, there you are again. There's so many of you here. Can you find, and I'll keep talking while you're finding it, but could you find Elkhorn, the virtual tour of Elkhorn?
Okay.
Hey, Jay, while she's looking for that, can I ask you a couple questions from the chat box?
No.
Love it.
Of course.
Someone asked, what made you think that your initial virtual open houses were not successful?
Because we didn't have a plan.
Okay.
That's really the biggest thing. We all just said, you're going to go on Zoom, and it's going to be at this time, and then you're going to walk through and talk about the house. And, you know, it was just basically that. We didn't have a plan of what needed to be done when you're talking about the house and describing things and, you know, stuff like that. And so that was probably the biggest thing. The other thing is that we were just on Zoom and not the Facebook Live. And the Facebook Live was really, you know, really helped a lot with the views, and for people to have watch parties and go back and look at it later and that kind of thing. And it was much harder to do that with Zoom. And so that was probably the other piece of it. Now this video that Cindy's going to show, this was really before I watched all of the failed virtual open houses. So it's not completely ideal. Like, I didn't start in the front and I didn't go out in the backyard. And so there's a couple of things that I didn't do, but while I'm walking through the house, you'll get a feel for, you know, the things to talk about while I'm doing it. So let me just
have it ready.
Okay,
Yep.
Great.
Oh, it's gonna play. Here we go.
5 and older community. This home is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath ranch style home, super cute, barely lived in. This is the entryway. So coming in, you can kind of see the bonus room off to the right, the family room or the great room and kitchen in the back. And right here is a little guest suite. So it has a bathroom with a full bath. And then next to that bathroom is a guest bedroom. So the guest bedroom has plenty of room for a queen size bed, as is shown here. It's got tall ceilings, carpeted floors, some room for furniture here, as well as room for furniture here. And then going right into the guest bathroom that has a tub with tile floors and tile on the walls. So leaving the guest suite, we go into what I call a bonus room. This room could actually be used however you wanted or needed. If you needed to do a third bedroom, you could convert it into a third bedroom. It was designed to be either a formal dining room or a study, so you could put double French doors on here. It's shown here as more of a formal living space, so that works as well. Coming down into the great room, you can see that there's a gorgeous stone fireplace here. It's got engineered wood floors and just a nice space here. Looking outside into the yard does have fencing. It needs to be completed just on the wings, but you could have a dog back there if you wanted. And here's the kitchen with the white countertops and with the quartz, you can kind of see quartz countertops, or I'm sorry, white cabinets and quartz countertops, stainless appliances. There is a very nice pantry here. So all you need is a bottle of wine. And this is looking into the breakfast nook. It's shown here with a small table, but it's actually a very large space and could be used as more of the formal dining room if you wanted. You could definitely do family gatherings and dinners and stuff here. I'll kind of show you that fireplace with the TV mounted above. And that's the hallway that goes into the master suite. I did want to take you out to show you the backyard real quick. So the backyard has a covered patio, which is great. Lots of space back here. And it does have this fenced yard. It's a pretty decent size little yard. The yard is the homeowner's owner's responsibility. Okay. Okay, Cindy, you can stop it. So the point being, did you see how as we do, right, when you're selling like that bonus room, it could be this or this or this. Like if I was just showing that, or even just on the HD, or on the 3D Matterport, you don't really know that. Like it says dining room. Well, what if you don't need a formal dining room? Like it's helpful as you're still walking through to talk with them as you would if you had a buyer with you. This is being shown this way, but it could be used this way. Whose responsibility is it to take care of the yard? I mean, those kinds of things, because those are the kinds of questions that come up while you're doing a showing on the property. So if they're not actually being able to walk in and do the showing, you're still giving them that whole, showing experience, not just visual, but to hear the conversation going on with it, or, to hear what it could do. Like you noticed in that bedroom that I showed, it's big enough for a queen size bed. When you look at that bed when I was doing it, that didn't look like a queen size bed, did it? That room looked small, And it was relatively small, but still the fact that that was a queen size bed, like people might not have known that. So just being able to say this is a queen size bed, there's room for, you know, furniture here on this wall, there's room for furniture on this wall, so that they can, you know, really kind of get all of that you wouldn't be able to get if you were just seeing and not hearing as well. Does that make sense? So those are some of the things that we learned, you know, in doing the open house, the virtual open house. The other thing is we are very cognizant of people coming in at different times. They may not have come in at the front, you know, when you were in the street, you know, walking into the property. And so at the end, we'd say, for those of you, you know, this completes this house. However, I'm going to go and redo it again. I'm going to walk through it again a second time, so that those of you that came in late, that you'll be able to see the whole thing. And so I'm going to start back at the sidewalk and, you know, and redo it again. And think about too, when you are showing properties, how many times do people walk through the whole house? A couple of times, right? Like they see it with you, they kind of see it once, and then if they like it, they're like, well, let's go back to the, you know, master bedroom and let's look at this and kind of think about it, or let's go back to, you know, this space or whatever. Well, when they're only getting to see it, you know, one time, they're not being able to get all of that during that time. So the people who have a stronger interest in it, you know, can watch and do the walkthrough again and, you know, be talking about it or whatever. Does that make sense? So, so then once they clipped our wings and we couldn't, so now we can't go in, we can't stage, we can't take the photos, we can't do the measurements, we can't do the Matterport, we can't do the virtual tour. So we then did a video for our clients on how to do it themselves. And so we have, and it's like a 7 or 8 minute video, so I'm not going to show it, especially since you guys aren't at this point, you know, where you have to worry about it today. But we just said, here's what you need to do. Here's how to, you know, here's how to take the photos and where to stand and all, you know, all of those things. And then what we do is we're having them do the virtual tour instead. So 2 of our properties we sold that way, and one of them, the people who lived in that house were in their middle 80s, and so we had to have them do the virtual tour. And so how we did that, when somebody wanted, so what we put on our verbiage in the MLS is we said, you know, virtual tour available, you can see it live, you just need to, you know, call to set a showing. When they would set a showing through our showing service, the showing service would then send it to the agent. So then the agent would talk to the other agent, you know, so like the listing agent would talk to the agent with the buyers and kind of say, this is what we've got. We'll schedule a time that our seller can walk through with you so that you can ask, you know, questions of it. And so then we had to give, you know, via Zoom, we had to teach our 85-year-old seller how to do a virtual tour. And they were up for it. They did a great job. One of the things we did is we muted them so that when we were doing the virtual tour with them, they couldn't say the wrong things, right? So they were purely just the camera person, and then the listing agent would do the walk through, you know, while we had, so we'd do a Zoom call, we'd have the buyer, the seller, the listing agent, and the buyer's agent all together on it. The seller's walking through, the listing agent is describing the house and kind of talking about things. And then the buyer would say, oh, can you go back to the bathroom and can you tell me about how big the bathroom is? Or can you tell me on that closet, is it big enough to do, you know, whatever, right? And so it was very interesting, but the, you know, it was a great way to do it. And the sellers could ask, or the buyers could ask the seller, and the seller would run around and, you know, show those things. One of the things too that's important with the video, did you notice when I showed like the quartz, what that looked like? One of the things that we found that people did incorrectly was they would say, here's the kitchen. And they would pan really quick and then you didn't really know, like you couldn't tell what kind of wood is that. You know, not everybody's cameras are great quality and that kind of thing. And so you go, look, I don't know what kind of wood that was, and I don't know what the countertops look like. And so that's when we started zooming in and actually, you know, saying this is what the countertop looks like, so that you can see just that. Because from a distance, you think that people can see it, but there's a lot that they can't see. And so, you know, you have to be pretty slow with it and really zoom in so that they can take all those things in. That if you're standing there, there's all these senses going on at one time, but when you're seeing it just on a camera, like you can't use all of those senses, and so you have to help be those senses.
That's awesome.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that helps quite a bit. You know, I think it's really interesting how your sellers have been so adaptive to everything that's been happening too. Have you had any kind of pushback from sellers? Are you hearing objections on, well, I have to do your job now, so
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. You know, the things that you have to be careful with is that you don't want to make it like, this is great, you don't need the agent, because all that's going to do when this is over is it's going to direct people to go to Zillow and, you know, some of our other competitors. And that's why we've made sure that the agent is very interactive in the whole thing, that the agent is the one doing the selling and talking about it and all of that. But what we found is that right now, well, at any given time, there's always two types of buyers and two types of sellers. There's those that want to and those that need to, right? Who do you attract at this time right now? Unmute yourself and tell me. This is interactive.
Say the question one more time, please.
So there's people who want to and people who need to.
People
Who
need
is
to-
out there right now?
People that need to move are the ones who are showing up right now.
That's absolutely right. So is it ideal? No. Does it matter? If you need to move, it doesn't matter. If you need to move, you need to move, right? And so that's who we've attracted, are people who need to move. So if you need to move, do they love that they're having to do their own staging and that they're having to be, you know, their own camera person and all of that? No, nobody really like wanted to go into it as a seller thinking I'm going to have to do all this work. But if you need to sell your house, you're willing to do it. And so it is always just about how motivated are they. If they're not very motivated, then it's probably not going to work too well. If they're pretty motivated and they really need to move and they need to, you know, get this done, then they're going to do what they need to do to get it done. The key is don't just like throw it all on them and say, you have to do this. Say, I am going to walk you through as though I'm there with you each step of the way. Let's walk through the kitchen. Let's talk about what you need to put away specifically. Don't just say clear off the counters. Say you need to take the toaster oven off, and you need to take your KitchenAid, you know, food processor off the you know, the countertops, and, you know, start talking with them about that as though you were there. Right? With everything that you do, don't just leave it up to them. They don't want to do it themselves. They still need your guidance. They still need someone to hold their hand as they're walking through, and that's your job. Your job just changes, and you have to be really motivating to them. And, you know, like the one that we're listing this week, I know that they couldn't move the things that I wanted moved, and so we're going to have to deal with it for the time being. But as soon as I'm able to get in there and actually stage it, then, and that's the thing that I've told them all, is that, you know, we're going to try right now to sell it without all these things happening. But if it doesn't sell immediately, at least people have seen it, and, you know, they're going to be ready to come in and look at it more when, you know, all of the restrictions are lifted. And so, you know, I think that most people who are wanting to, you know, that are calling you right now, some of them have just said, well, we'll just wait. And if they're waiting, that's okay, but be putting into place all the things that you can, because we're going to have, like, it's like a water hose, you know, that when it gets unkinked, you're going to get this rush. Well, so be as prepared as you can before the rush happens, right? Like, have it all done in the MLS, have everything on your part all done, all the paperwork signed, all of that, so that you can process a bunch of new listings all at one time, because they'll probably all hit, right when the restrictions are lifted.
Well, one of the things that I hear you saying is that you're still remaining in control. And even through this pandemic, sellers and buyers, they're relying on professionals more so now than ever before to help navigate through this process. And you've done a really good job taking the reins, taking control, and I can sense they really appreciate that. Now we have a couple of questions here. One of the questions, which I thought was really good from Jason, was how long should the video walkthrough be when you're doing the virtual walkthrough? What would you recommend?
So when you're doing the virtual walkthrough and not the virtual open house, I would say try to keep it to 3 to 4 minutes. Really no longer than that, because people lose interest. When you're doing the virtual open house, I would say try to keep it to about 20 minutes, because you're, answering questions, you're going back and showing it again. You're really, you're walking out to the back of the backyard, turning around so that they can see the back of the house and, that kind of thing. So, and what we found is people pop on and off, right? When you can watch it on Facebook Live, you can see like how many people are staying and how many, come on and how many drop off. And that's okay. They can come and go. No one's holding them hostage to having to watch it all. But for those who are really serious buyers, they want to see as much of it as they can see.
And do you find that they also want to see your face too, or only the house?
We've done it both ways. What I found is when we're doing it for the selling purposes, like that video that we showed you, that is something that someone is going to go on to the MLS. Their agent might, send them this new listing that came on, and the agent's going to look to see how much, is on there. And so we were really careful in those not to promote the Ribble Group, right? It's sort of like not having the Ribble Group in the description, when you put it in the MLS. I mean, there's certain things that, either the MLS is not going to allow, or the agents are going to be really upset when you're trying, they're sending their buyer to your property and you're talking about you and the Ribble Group and all of that, so much. That's not going to feel good to other agents, and other agents are not going to then be promoting your listing and that kind of thing. So we were very, very careful to have an unbranded version that was attached to the MLS. And when it's attached to the MLS, it's not about me. It's not about my face. It's not about who I am, anything about the Ribble Group. It's about the house and only the house. And that's so that we can be, so that we can work cooperatively with the other agents that are out there. However, when we do the open house, why do we do open houses? For 2 reasons. One is to sell the house, and the other is to
Get leads.
Thank you. And so we still want to get leads, right? We want to sell the house, but we want to get leads as well. And so on an open house, we figure it's just like any other open house. Don't go look at the open house if you don't want to hear about the agent and about the team and that was one of the things that we found that some of the other teams that we watched didn't do a good job of. They didn't really talk about them. They didn't really talk about, like, I can help you. I can help you with this house. I can help you with other houses. I'd be glad to walk through another house for you if you're, not in a position to be able to do that. And we're the Ribble Group, and this is what we do. And this is, all of those things. The only thing that you want to be careful of is don't give away your trade secrets, because we know that half of the people that are watching our virtual open house is who?
Other agents.
Other agents, right? So just always do it as though there's another agent right there listening to you. It's okay to talk about our success and what we do as a team, but I might not talk about some of the things that I wouldn't want all of the other agents to know that, that we do.
So Gay, all of this is amazing information, and it's really cool that one thing I admire about you is that you're in the trenches with us too. you are out there, you're listing property, you're showing houses virtually, and you're actually on the field. And I certainly have a lot of respect for that. So you're seeing what we're seeing and what we're going through.
Yeah.
Now, shift tactic.
And by the way, I'll never not be,
yeah,
because that's my passion.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd say you're pretty good at it too.
Thank you.
So shift tactic number 8, I mean, I know we only have about 10 minutes here. It really is about staging. I know we started talking about staging and what you used to do. And can you just walk us through the value of staging that you have seen throughout your career? And also, what advice could you give to people that are just starting out with staging? Like, I know you have a huge warehouse, which you'll talk about, but most of us don't. So what are some tips and tricks that you could share with us on that?
Well, I've got a couple of videos, and if you guys are not using video, you need to be, right? So like, you just know that. Now, here's the thing. I hate to see myself on video. I hate it. You know, I'm super uncomfortable, and I just think, you know, I mean, like, most of us are pretty hard on ourselves, right? But here's the reality. You look the way you look. Like, everyone else knows, you know, we're just always in denial that we don't want to know how we really look, but everybody else does. You got to just get over it, right? And start doing video. So we do, so we do staging, and we do Staging Plus. And I don't know if you want to hear, did I talk when I was last there? I can't remember. Did I do Staging Plus? Did I talk about Staging Plus at all?
Yes, ma'am.
A little bit. So I don't know, you guys can decide. And as you know, I never stay in the time frame that I'm supposed to stay in. So anybody who wants to stay on, I'm happy to continue to, you know, to talk with you if you want to, but if you got to go, you know, feel free to jump off. But Cindy, let's just go ahead and do, first we'll just do the staging video that I did, and then we'll do Casey too, so that you can see our stager and our warehouse and that kind of thing. And I am the founder and CEO of the Ribble Group. One of the biggest value propositions with listing your home with the Ribble Group is that we professionally stage every one of our properties for no additional cost to you. That means that every one of our houses is going to look like a model home. People know to expect that out of our properties, and we always get more money for them. I started staging properties about 15 years ago, and at that time I didn't have any items to take into a house. We have over $180,000 worth of staging items in a warehouse. We have everything from rugs and artwork and place settings and towels and bedspreads and all things like that. We actually don't include furniture with it. That's the great thing about staging, is that we can use your furniture and still make your house look like a model home. Casey Tiemann is one of our professional stagers. She's our lead stager, and she's been working with me now for about 5 years. She has professionally staged close to 1,000 houses for us. Her background comes from interior design, and she is amazing. And it actually costs me anywhere between $500 to $2,000 per house to stage. And that's a cost that I take on myself. The reason I do that is because I know that you are hiring me to do the very best job possible and to net you the most money possible. And I fully believe that professional staging does that. Professional staging gives your home the impression of a really well-maintained home. It helps you to justify your asking price. Staging makes your house seem larger. Suddenly, every room has a purpose. Professional staging puts your house above the competition. So you know, just in doing that, we do that. Now, do you think I really spend $2,000 per listing to stage it? I don't, but that's what it would have been if I would have gone out and purchased all the things that I purchased for it. You know, once you purchase it once, you've got it in your inventory, and you saw, you know, some of our warehouse with all the pictures and the rugs and things that were in there. And so, you know, once you have it, it's, you know, you purchase it and you don't have to keep purchasing it over and over. And truly, when I started staging during the recession. And what I found is that the staged houses sold and the ones that weren't staged didn't, right? I mean, you have to win two contests. One is the beauty contest and the other is the price war. So if you're in a shifted market, you've got to do both. You've got to be the best looking house for the best price, and what's going to happen? It will sell. If you're one or the other, it probably won't. You really need to be both of those. And so that's when we started to stage. And what I would do is now my price point here is higher than what your price point is. And so you have to kind of come up with your own budget. But I would, say, okay, I'm going to spend $200 per listing or $500 per listing at the beginning. And so I would just go, sometimes I took things out of my own house. Many times I took things out of my own house, right? Because I didn't have it. I didn't have the money to go buy it. And so it'd be like, my husband would be like, what are you doing with our dining room table? Oh, don't worry about it. It'll come back, and I would, I did take the dining room table a lot of times. And so, so do what you have to do, right? So I would just go and buy a few things. I never buy expensive stuff. I shop at, I don't know, like Hobby Lobby, only when it's on, the sale days, Target, Walmart, some of the different home stores and all of those kinds of places. And so, and I would just get it inexpensively, and just find things that were inexpensive, and towels, we'd take towels and things like that. Now, one of the things that we do is we virtually stage a lot. So if it is a vacant house, the virtual staging is just so great to do that. Are you guys doing virtual staging? Very many of you? Cindy, can you show a before and after of a virtually staged house? Maybe that's in the staging guide that we have. You could probably flip onto one of those pages that shows the before and after of, an empty room and a virtually staged. That's a really inexpensive way of doing it. And, so sometimes you may recommend that the people move their stuff out so that you could do that. And that would be cheaper than coming in and, bringing stuff. But I would just come up with a budget of, what I had, and I would use what I had for those houses. I also learned to, here's our staging guide that we show our clients. So you can see the before and afters of each of these rooms, with what we do. You're probably going a little fast, Cindy. But so like this before, that's what we, came to, and the after is what we made it. But a lot of times you can use their stuff. I mean, we don't bring furniture in at all anymore. So these are some of the Staging Plus where we come in and do our cosmetic updating and design. But she's going to go to the back where she can see our virtually staged houses. So here's with the virtually staged, here's the before, where it's just an empty room, and then the after, where you can see it with furniture. Maybe do another one, Cindy. I don't like the foggy. We need to change that. So before and after. Hopefully you guys can see that pretty well, what it looks like. So you can really make them, look good with your befores and afters, and, just with a vacant room. And what does it cost to do one room? Cindy, like this photo, what would that have cost to do?
Well, these are photos, professionally done photos, and then we send them to Box Brownie, and it costs $30 to virtually stage a room.
So that's pretty affordable, isn't it? So we're doing more and more of that just because we found that it's been, that it's great. Then what we do with that, let's see. Hang on, I'm going to show you something.
Making Gay work.
Can you guys see this? So this, then we blow it up and we put them on these boards. So this is like a foam backed, it's not just so it's pretty sturdy. And we set them on an easel in the room. So even though they're seeing it online, like this, when they come into the house, it obviously doesn't look this way. So we put it in the corner of a room on the easel, so that when they walk in, you can see what it would look like if it were furnished, but you're also seeing what it looks like not furnished. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
That's a great idea.
it's actually pretty cool.
And I would think that virtual staging right now, especially since you can't really, like, especially where you are, you can't go in and stage it. This is going to be ideal.
It is. It is. The biggest thing is that you have to have them empty things out, so it's better on a room that's empty. Although they can, like, you could take a room that has a bed but nothing else in the room, and they could take a picture and they could virtually put the furniture, or, like other furniture or artwork or things like that, and still just keep the bed where it is in the photo. So you could still do that. So, less is better when you're virtually staging. So, if they just had like a sofa in the room, but they didn't have anything else, or if their artwork is bad, you could ask them to take the artwork down so that you could, and then have them take a picture and then send the picture, and then, they would put the artwork and stuff back in there.
And Gay, if I can just add to that, at Isabel Circle, they had a room that didn't function right. So we had Box Brownie remove the 2 chairs and the table and staged it as an office. And it looked much better.
Yeah, so they can remove furniture and things in it too. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for sharing that. So, but with the staging, just start little. And for me, like, I never went out and spent thousands of dollars for our staging items. It's just that I've been doing it for a long time. And so I always would just say, like during the recession, and, I wanted to keep every dollar I could keep, obviously, but I also knew that if I didn't stage it, the likelihood of it not selling went way, way up. And so it was worth it. It's that pie. It was just, I wasn't going to get as much of the pie that I had before, but I was still getting a lot of the pie. And so it was worth it for me at my expense to, to put it into that house to do it. But then I would use that stuff. So then, the second one that I had the $500 worth of staging stuff from the previous house, so, as well as the new $500. Now I had $1,000 worth of stuff I could put in there. And, that's just how I grew. And so I probably did that for 2 years, where I was committed to $500 worth of staging items in every house that I did. And, while that sounds like a lot, it adds up. And sometimes I didn't need it, but I tried to be really strong with that. And I determined that things like staging were more important than even professional photos. Like, I could do photos that were maybe not as expensive. I mean, you can spend a couple $100s on photographer, and so I learned to, like, I just got a camera that I could do a pretty good photo, but I decided that the photos weren't as important as the staging was. And so I would, cut cost in other ways so that I could really focus on what I thought was the most important, and that was the staging. And now the staging for the Ripple Group has always been a value add. I mean, now, years later, we're known for doing the staging. And so many of our clients will, say that they're calling because they know that we stage their house and that we'll do all of that for them. And we don't charge extra to do the staging, but we end up, it's volume that we get, I mean, that's just a value add that we do. So it's ended up serving us really, really well for both kind of markets. It's been great in the down markets, but it's also equally as good in a hot market, because those are the houses, the houses that are kind of the cream puffs that really show the best are going to get multiple offers and that kind of thing. And so that's, almost all of our properties get multiple offers on them when the market is good, more so than other ones, because they just are better houses, and they're the ones that people, fall in love with. And when they fall in love with it, that's going to make the price go up.
Awesome. Well, we sure appreciate all your information. I know you said you'd stay on for a little bit longer, but I just want to end by asking you one more question, and then if anybody wants to stay on with you afterwards, we can. But to end the meeting, what encouragement or advice would you give to everybody on this call? Maybe the best thing that you've learned throughout this pandemic and how to run your business.
Well, the best thing, like, I have worked harder now than I work when we're not in this time. And most people would say that it's just the opposite for them, right? Most people are like, I just have all this extra time on my hands, and I've got, so I have time to do a lot more videos and things. My Facebook post today was like, there's so many good things, and I just don't have time to go on and to watch them all because, they're great, but I'm busy, I'm working. So you need to be innovative. Don't just doing nothing is never going to help you. If you do, even if you're doing just a little bit more than everybody else is, and you're doing it every day, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and you keep at it, by the time you're done, you're going to be way further ahead of them than they are. A lot of people think that this is temporary. I think there are aspects of it that's temporary, but what I've said every week with my team is this is our new normal until it's not. I mean, we're putting systems in place that this is what it's going to be like until we hear that it's not like this anymore. And then we will, change it to whatever it's like at that time. But we're not saying, well, this is just temporary, and so we don't really need to do it because it's going to go back. I don't believe it's going to go back to what it was, at least at any time soon, right? So if you don't do anything now, and then they finally, say, okay, now you can go out again, it's not going to look the same. Buyers aren't going to want to go into people's houses. Sellers aren't going to want to have people going through their houses. If you can develop your systems now, you're going to be that much further ahead of the competition when they're finally going, oh gosh, now we got to figure out how to do this, because they just didn't do it before. If you can use this time to be innovative, it's going to really help you, and be working hard. Do not take this time to go play. I mean, I know some of you are having to homeschool your kids and do things like that, and those are necessities, and I don't have those challenges that I have to work around, but if I did, I would still do that. I mean, I would be working late into the night. I do it as it is, right, Cindy? We're working every night, late into the night. I mean, work hard. This is survival. And think of it as survival. Think of it as, if I'm going to be relevant and I'm going to still be here at a high level doing business the way that I've always done when we come out of this, the only way you're going to get there is that you've got to 10 times the effort that you put into it when things are easy.
That's a great point, Gay. It reminds me of, we all used to love, if you're of my age, you used to love to go to Blockbuster, and then Netflix came around. Well, no one came back and said, oh man, I wish the Blockbuster days would come back. These shifts and changes are going to be forever shift and changes. So you're so right.
Hey, Jay, for young people on here like Bernie, can you explain what Blockbuster is?
Hey, I don't want to hear it just because it's gray. No.
Yeah. So
you remember Hastings here in town?
Be super, super proactive. That, probably the one thing I'm most proud about in my career is that I've been doing this for 27 years, going on 28 years now. And I have tried to be relevant the whole time. And that's hard to do. That's why people, will do really well and then they fade and they're not doing well anymore. It's because they didn't continue to progress as the market progressed, right? I mean, I started when it was a little picture like this, black and white, in an MLS book. We didn't even have computers. Well, then when the computer came, so many agents didn't embrace it, and they went out of business. And then when, that was just having the computer, and then it was internet, and then, those people went out of business. And then the only way that you're going to have a long and fruitful career is being able to adapt to whatever the scenario is today. And you have to adapt quick. You have to be an early adapter. And so, you've got to be always really looking and trying to figure out, where is the ball bouncing to, not where did the ball bounce from. And so that would be the big thing that I would say, just innovate, 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 be looking, studying, go look at other people's virtual open houses, go watch their, their tours, like go study those kinds of things so that you can learn and then start applying them today so that you have them for tomorrow.
I love that. It's more than just being a market leader. You have to be the thought leader and always have to innovate. You've done a great job with that. Gay, thank you so much for being here with us. Jay, is there time for
Sure.
if somebody wants to stay on and talk to Gay?
I would say if you got questions, now's the time to ask them.
Awesome. Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask away. Gay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody? You guys aren't leaving, so I'm taking it that you're wanting to stay, but you have to ask something.
I know Jason Carlton asked, and he may have just stepped away from his desk. He asked what was going on with COVID with your client event.
Oh, this is great. That's a great question. So tonight we are doing virtual bingo. So two things with client events. So the first thing is that as we were looking, like we already had to cancel our first event, which was a kite flying festival. And so, we're not doing the kite flying festival. So we started saying, what are we going to do in lieu of our events and how do we stay relevant and, what are we going to do? And I think a lot of people just say, well, we can't have events, so we're not going to do events and then just leave it at that. And that's not how we roll. So what we did is we kind of came together and said, what can we do? And so one of the things is that because we're probably not going to be doing mass gatherings for most of, if not all of the year, we knew that was going to have to change. And the budget, though, gets to change with it. So, one of the big costly things with an event is the event center or wherever you're having it, that's a big cost to rent it. So some of it I am saving. I'm just going to save the money that that we use. We spend, and this is just the Ribble Group, so don't let it intimidate you. We spend about $70,000 for the year with events, and a lot of that is donated and, our affiliates help and that kind of thing. But what we did is we took a good chunk of that and we put it aside and we said, this is going to be used to help our clients. And so I sent a video out and the video, just said it was like right at the beginning of this when, the fear was really big. Like people are less fearful now. They're kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing. But,
right.
At first it was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And so we sent a video out and we said, if you are in need, if you've lost your job or you're a small business owner and your income is, been slashed or whatever the case may be, we have money earmarked for groceries for you. And so we've got tens of thousands of dollars set aside to help our clients financially. And we said, we use this money to celebrate you in good times, and it's parties and fun and laughter. And in the bad times, we're here for you as well. And it's in the means of, help that we're going to use that money because we already had it set aside. We're going to use it to help you. And so that's been one of the big things that we've done with that. That will be the biggest thing that we'll do with it. We haven't had the requests that we thought we would have had on it, but we will start to open it up once we see that maybe we can't do events, for the rest of the year, but we've got this money earmarked for it. We may say, tell us about the needs that you know of. It may not be your need, but of somebody that, has a need during this time, and, let us know and we will help take care of that need. So we're just being really philanthropic instead of hosting things. We're just kind of changing the look of it, right? So that we're just out there helping people. And I think that will, A, it helps people, which is the biggest thing that we want. And B, I think our clients and the people who know us will appreciate that we did that you know, during this time, and hopefully will continue to support us by, you know, working with us and referring business to us and that kind of thing. So that's the first thing. But then the other thing that we're doing is like, so tonight is our first one. We're doing virtual bingo. So we've got, how many registered right now, Cindy? I can't tell what that said.
92 people are registered. 92
people.
families.
So 92 families, and they can each have their own bingo card, you know, to work with. So one card per person. You can't, you know, like get 15 cards like they do at bingo parlors and on cruises. And so then it's a virtual bingo program that we have. And the agent on our team who's going to be calling it, she's like looked for all the corny, cheesy bingo jokes and stuff like that. And we're doing it from 5 to 6 p.m. So kind of right after people are done with work. We're going to try different times with it. And we've got prizes. So we've got $300 worth of prizes. We've got 3 games that we're going to be doing. And so they're going to be able to win prizes, you know, for coming and doing bingo with us. And so, you know, that's 100 people or 100 families in it, in any of our events. I mean, that would be a great turnout for our events to have 100 families, you know, to come to an event, and they're getting to hear us and see us and have fun and laugh and get prizes. And it's super cheap to do, and pretty easy to put together. So we plan to do it, you know, depending on how it goes tonight. We're going to be alternating between bingo and trivia pursuit, you know, that we'll do both, and different weeks. And so we're going to continue doing that. The other thing we're doing is a lot of webinars and seminars. You know, the first one that we're going to be doing is next Tuesday, and it's all on how do you buy and sell houses in the midst of the pandemic. You know, can you still buy and sell houses, and what does that look like? So I explained to you guys what we're doing. We're going to just explain it to people coming in, and we're doing Facebook advertising to draw people, you know, to that, again, through the Zoom and the FaceTime. And then on the FaceTime, it has a longer shelf life. And so, you know, a lot of people can do that, watch it as watch party with family members and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps.
Any other questions from anyone else?
I was just going to say that's
Jay, is that
wonderful.
a link that we could?
Hey, hang on, Jason. Teresa first.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to say thank you so much, because a big part, I'm a new agent, and a big part of my business, I was gearing toward doing seminar and events. And then with the coronavirus, I've just been like, oh, I can't do it. But that's an awesome idea. So yeah, I didn't even think about, I've got guests, and I told my guest speakers, well, I'll just have to call you when this is all over. But now we can do it on the Zoom, and I can advertise on Facebook. That's just, it's so encouraging. Thank you so much.
I think in some ways, again, these are the things that are going to replace it, right? Like we may never do another live webinar or seminar, not live webinar, but a live seminar again. We may find that this works really great, and everyone has gotten so much better at the technology with Zoom and that kind of thing, and they now have been forced to have to use it. Now that they have, they're like, oh, I can do this, and I can do it in the comfort of my own home, and you know, in my own timing and all of that. And so I think we've probably opened up a whole new way to generate business and interest and leads that we didn't even think about, you know, 3 weeks ago.
Jason.
You're muted, Jason.
Yeah, Cindy just answered the question. I was asking if there was a link of how to see that bingo game tonight. And is that on Arizona time, or what time frame are you on?
We're Mountain Standard Time. I don't think you can, because we limited it to 100 people. So with Zoom, you have to get, you know, different programs, and there's a limit to it. So we limited it to 100 people. So I think we will be at our capacity, you know, by the time we put the agents and stuff on it. I think we're going to be at that. But maybe what we could do, Cindy, is let's record it.
Okay.
And then we could show, you know, we can send the recording to you so that you can see what that looks like.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
No questions, just thank you for your time.
Aw.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's such a pleasure. It's great to see all of you guys. Are you guys doing okay?
Business
doing
is,
okay?
I mean, you look at Josh Berkeley. I mean, that guy killing it over there, right? So yeah, it's been really busy. We're blessed to not be in the situation that you're in Colorado, where we've been, other than not having open houses, like physical open houses, we're pretty unrestrained. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like there's still, a high demand out there. There's still a lot of buyers out there and people who are, needing to buy and sell. So take full advantage of it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Last
Well, thank
chance.
you. Thank
All
you
right.
for
Thank
having
you so
me.
much, Gay. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Josh, for moderating.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Gay.